we're saying that the snake wanted them to have knowledge, and then knowledge is bad, the knowledge of the things that the God created?
No, Satan told them that God was lying to them, and if they had the knowledge of good and evil, they would become gods themselves. The opposite happened.
But what knowledge would they have had? Knowledge of what? The stuff that the God created.
Everything God created, he declared good, including Adam. Adam had a knowledge of all things good. Again, you're getting caught up with the word knowledge, and you're focusing on that word knowledge as if God was withholding knowledge from Adam. What God was warning Adam is that if he acts in disobedience against that which is good, or if he acts in opposition to good by choosing evil, then that evil will produce death. Only choosing good, that is the tree of life, will produce that which is good, that is life. Satan fell by pride in rebellion against God when there was no tree of knowledge of good and evil mentioned in that story of Satan's fall.
Right? And wait, so they were naked, but then they got knowledge, and then they were embarrassed about being naked?
Right, because they no longer viewed each other in the lens of the goodness of God, the way that God created them to see each other. This is how God intends our relationships to function under the framework of his goodness. They now viewed each other under the framework of good and evil. When Adam looked upon his wife and saw her exposed in that vulnerable state, he understood not only the good he could intend to do to her, but he understood the evil that he could intend and enact upon her, and vice versa, and they were ashamed. They were ashamed of their newfound capacity to do evil. They were ashamed because they knew that God saw right through them, naked and exposed. They were guilty before God.
So now we wear clothes to cover the body that the God created, but he doesn't make mistakes?
Yes, because all things point to Jesus Christ, and even the clothes we wear point to the necessity of our shame needing to be covered, the shame that comes from the guilt of our sin, because we know in our heart to do good, and yet we also know to do evil. We desire to do the good, but we do not choose it. We don't want to do the evil, and yet we do it anyways. We are enslaved to sin, so we try to cover it up. We try to cover it up with works. We try to cover it up with sacrifice. We try to cover it up with just ignoring it or pretending it doesn't exist. But none of that works. We need to be clothed in the righteousness of Jesus Christ. That's why it was God himself who clothed Adam and Eve by sacrificing a lamb in order to cover their nakedness, pointing to the fact that Jesus will become the ultimate sacrifice that we might be clothed in his righteousness. So he would enrobe himself in human flesh. God would become a man so that we can be enrobed with his divine righteousness. It's a beautiful story that's more than a story. It's the reality of salvation that God provides for us.
Okay, and wait.